It was 8:05 in the morning, Wednesday. I was ironing my shirt when the cramp hit. Dull, not sharp, more like pressure than pain, like someone pressing the flat side of a hammer into the center of my chest. I paused, leaned slightly forward over the ironing board, and listened. Not to the room, to my own body. There was no racing heartbeat, no dizziness, no shooting pain down my arms like they say in the commercials. Just that uncomfortable push, right in the middle. I figured maybe I'd slept weird. The shirt hissed beneath the iron. I straightened up and told myself it was nothing. Most days started the same. I'd wake up before my alarm, out of habit more than anything. 44 years old, 2 kids, 1 ex-wife, 1 job I'd kept longer than the marriage. Project coordinator for a small packaging company. It sounded more important than it was. My mornings were quiet now. No little feet running down the hallway. No notes on the fridge saying, "Don't forget Timmy's science fair." Just me and the sound of the fridge humming, and the ticking kitchen clock that always ran 5 minutes fast like it was impatient. I put on the pressed shirt, adjusted the collar. The pressure in my chest had faded to a whisper by then, enough to ignore. I flexed my shoulders once in the mirror and told my reflection, "You're fine." I said that a lot lately. Traffic was average. Not bad, not good. Just enough to make me late if I stopped for coffee, so I didn't. The morning sun glared off the hood of the car in front of me, and I shifted in my seat to avoid the beam. That little adjustment brought the pressure back, mild, like a reminder. I pressed my knuckles into my sternum and stretched forward. It eased again. Maybe acid reflux, maybe stress. At work, nobody noticed anything wrong. Why would they? Lana from accounting waved at me from the copier. She always waved, never talked much. I gave a slight nod. My mind was already racing through the list of back orders I had to deal with. By 10:30, I was sitting in a meeting room full of stale coffee and half-baked strategies. The chest pressure returned. A bit stronger this time. Not sharp, not sudden. Just a kind of tightening, like someone cinching a belt beneath my ribs. "Everything okay, Nate?" asked Kevin, my manager, mid-slide. I blinked. Yeah, just need to stretch." I stood and rolled my shoulders, careful not to make a scene. A few chuckled. Someone joked about getting old. I laughed with them. Lunch break. I skipped the usual sandwich shop and just sat in my car, engine off, windows cracked. I texted my ex, not about the pain, just to ask about the kids. Me. How was Caleb's math test? Her. He said it was fine. You picking him up Friday? Me. Yeah. Wouldn't miss it. I stared at the screen for a while after that. The truth? I wasn't even sure what Friday would look like. The pressure had become a low throb, still not what you'd call pain exactly, but enough to make me unbutton the top of my shirt and take deeper breaths. I Googled my symptoms right there in the car. Chest pressure with no pain. Heartburn versus heart attack. Can anxiety cause chest tightness? Every article said the same thing. Don't ignore it. But I did. Because I'm a guy. Because I had deadlines. Because it wasn't that bad. Because I didn't want to overreact and become that story at the office. The one where someone panicked over gas and ended up with a hospital bill. So I swallowed some water, chewed a mint, and went back inside. The thing about work is that it can drown out your body. Deadlines don't care if your rib cage feels like a vice, and no one ever died in a spreadsheet, right? But at around 3, I stood up to refill my coffee, and something changed. The pressure didn't just come back, it pulsed. A steady, rhythmic throb behind my breastbone. My jaw felt tight? Maybe that's not the right word, but there was a faint ache along the bottom edge of it, like after a dental injection, and that scared me. I sat back down, tried to slow my breathing, Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. I told myself it was anxiety. I told myself it was caffeine. I told myself 100 things. And all of them were lies. The body knows. It always knows. After work, I sat in the driver's seat for a full 10 minutes before starting the engine. My fingers hovered over the ignition, and I kept pressing the center of my chest like I could smooth it out. I glanced at my phone, thought about calling someone. But who? My ex wouldn't exactly welcome the drama. I didn't have a girlfriend. My parents were in Arizona. My brother and I hadn't talked since Dad's funeral 3 years ago. I called nobody. Instead, I drove to the pharmacy, walked straight to the antacid aisle, and grabbed a bottle of the chewable kind, the one that comes in a chalky fruit mix. I chewed 3 in the parking lot like candy. That night, I microwaved a frozen dinner, chicken parmesan with noodles that stuck together in a brick. I stabbed at it without appetite. The pressure was still there. Not worse, but definitely not gone. I turned on the TV, some mindless sitcom. I couldn't tell you what it was. At one point, I caught myself massaging my chest in slow circles like an old man. That scared me more than the pain. The way I looked, the way I was behaving, like someone bracing for something they didn't want to name. At 2:40 in the morning, I woke up sweating. That's what did it. Not the pressure, not the ache, but the sweat, cold and sticky. My sheets clung to me, and my heart pounded like I'd been running. But I hadn't moved. This wasn't normal. I knew it. I felt it in every pore. I stood up dizzy, sat back down, stood up again. I grabbed my phone. I almost Googled symptoms again. Almost. But instead I typed, "Urgent care near me." There was one 10 minutes away, open 24/7. I didn't even change out of my pajamas. Just threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and left. The waiting room was empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed above beige walls. A pot of artificial flowers wilted in the corner, dusty and forgotten. "Chest pain?" the nurse asked as I checked in. "Pressure," I corrected. "Not pain, and I can still breathe." She looked up. "You drove yourself?" "Yeah." Her face didn't change, but she typed faster. "Have a seat. We'll call you in a minute." A minute turned into 5, then 10. The pressure hadn't changed, but my palms were sweating again. I kept checking my pulse, like I knew what I was looking for. When they finally called me in, the nurse led me to a small room, sat me on the exam table, and clipped a sensor to my finger. "What's your name?" "Nathan." "Nate. Any history of heart issues in the family?" "My dad. He had a bypass at 51. My grandpa died in his sleep. Early 60s, I think." She nodded slowly, wrote that down. "What brings you in tonight?" I hesitated. Then I said it out loud for the first time. "I think something's wrong with my heart." The EKG was fast, wires taped to my chest, ankles, wrists. The machine beeped and drew zigzags across the paper. A doctor came in not long after. Older guy, white coat slightly wrinkled, glasses low on his nose. He didn't smile, just looked at the printout. "How long have you been feeling this pressure?" "All day," I said. "Since this morning." He didn't nod, didn't blink, just looked at me like I'd told him I'd been holding a live grenade in my lap for 12 hours. "You're lucky," he said. I blinked. "Sorry?" He pointed at the EKG readout. "These aren't heartburn symptoms. You're showing signs of early myocardial infarction. That's a heart attack, Nathan." Everything inside me froze. "No way. I can still breathe. I feel—" "You feel lucky," he interrupted. "That's what this is. Most men ignore this kind of pain. Most don't come in until it's too late." My mouth went dry. "You caught it just in time," he added, voice calm now. "But you're not out of the woods. We're transferring you to the hospital for observation and treatment. Tonight." And just like that, Everything I thought I knew about the day cracked. The ambulance doors clicked shut behind me with a low, final thud, like the end of a book I hadn't finished reading. A moment later, the siren began, soft at first, then louder as we pulled into the empty night. Inside the rig, the only other sound was the wheeze of the oxygen valve and the faint rustle of plastic gloves. I lay there, strapped to a gurney, staring up at the ceiling tiles, little gray dots swimming across the white surface like stars I couldn't name. A medic sat to my left, clipboard in hand, watching my vitals as if they were lottery numbers. "Still breathing okay?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah," I said, though my voice cracked on the way out. "Pressure still the same?" "More or less." He nodded and made a note. Then he added quietly, "You're doing the right thing, man." I don't know what I expected the ER to look like at 3 in the morning. Busier, maybe. Or quieter. But there was a strange in-between hum. Not silence, not chaos, just hum. A woman in scrubs took my name again. Another nurse took my blood pressure. Another drew blood. Every station felt like a toll booth, and I was driving deeper into unknown territory with no change left in my pockets. They wheeled me into a curtained-off bay and told me to wait for the cardiologist. I looked at the ceiling again. Different tiles this time. One had a brown water stain shaped like a handprint. I kept my hands folded on my chest, maybe out of instinct or fear. Or maybe I was just trying to feel the damn thing still beating. I should have called someone. That thought hit me hard while I waited for the doctor. I had no emergency contact listed. My phone was still in my hoodie pocket, buzzed once, then stopped. Probably a work email or spam. Either way, no one knew where I was. Not my ex, not my kids, not even Kevin from work. I felt invisible, like I'd fallen into a crack between days and no one noticed. A nurse walked by. I wanted to ask how long it would take, but I didn't. Didn't want to seem needy. Instead, I listened to the beeping monitor beside me. Each note like a promise the next one would follow. It was almost 5 when the cardiologist showed up. Dr. Hargrave, late 50s, tired eyes, but moved with purpose. He introduced himself briefly, flipped through the clipboard like it was an overdue novel, then looked me dead in the eye. "You're lucky," he said. Second time I'd heard that tonight. He pointed at a monitor. "Mild NSTEMI, non-ST elevation myocardial infarction." Not the big one, but not nothing. So, I didn't have a heart attack? You did, just not the kind they show in movies. I swallowed. But I'm okay, right? You're alive, he said, but okay depends on what you do next. He talked about enzymes, plaque, blockages, lifestyle changes, stress, cholesterol. I nodded through all of it, hearing the words but not feeling them, like someone narrating my obituary before I'd even left the room. Then he paused. "You ever been to a cardiologist before?" "No." He scribbled something, tore off a form. "You're going to. This is your wake-up call, Mr. Blake. Don't ignore the next one." They admitted me for observation. The hospital room was sterile but quiet. Private. I stared out the window at the parking lot, watched a crow hop between puddles left from last night's rain. The sun was coming up, but the light felt gray, tired. The nurse came in to check my IV. She was maybe 30, friendly in a practiced way. "You got someone coming to sit with you?" she asked, not unkindly. I shook my head. "No, not yet." "Want me to call someone?" I hesitated. Then I said, "No, thank you." It felt safer that way. Later that morning, I called in sick, left a voicemail for Kevin. "Hey, it's Nate. I had a bit of a health scare. I'm in the hospital. I'm okay, just figured you should know. I'll keep you posted." I didn't say heart attack. I didn't say lucky. I also didn't say scared. But that was the real truth. Around noon, I texted my ex. Me, at the hospital, nothing urgent, just wanted you to know. She called immediately. What happened? Chest pressure. Turned out to be a mild heart attack. Silence on the line. Are you okay? Well, she asked finally. I will be. They're running tests. Do you want me to bring the kids? That one hit hard. I pictured Caleb's face, wide-eyed and worried, Emma biting her lip like she does when she's nervous. I didn't want them to see me like this. Pale, wired up, fragile. No, I said, not yet. Maybe later. She didn't argue. That afternoon, Dr. Hargrave came back with a folder full of printouts. Your troponin levels are coming down. That's good. We're going to do a stress test in a couple days. For now, rest. I nodded. So I can go home soon? Soon-ish. But when you do, no caffeine, no red meat for a while, cut back on salt, get sleep, walk, breathe. You do those things? I can. Will you? He asked it like a dare. I will, I said. He didn't smile, but he gave me a look that said, I've heard that before. I didn't sleep well that night. Every beep of the heart monitor reminded me I was being watched. Not in a comforting way, in a measured way, as if the machine was waiting for me to screw up again. I thought about my dad, how he used to smoke in the garage, saying he was burning off stress. How he had his first heart scare at 51 and didn't tell anyone until Mom found his nitroglycerin pills. I thought about the funeral, closed casket, black suits, my brother trying not to cry while holding Dad's wristwatch. It had stopped ticking. The next morning, the nurse brought me breakfast. Oatmeal, unsalted, a banana, tea. It tasted like penance, but I ate every bite. Then I called my brother. He didn't pick up. I left a message. Hey, it's Nate. I'm in the hospital. Nothing too bad, but it got me thinking. I'd like to talk, if you want to. It felt weird, leaving a message like that, but necessary, like setting out a chair for someone who might show up later. The hours passed slowly. The cardiologist dropped by again. Nurses came and went. One of them brought me pamphlets. Heart health support groups, stress reduction. One read, Men over 40, signs you should never ignore. I almost laughed. Almost. But mostly, I stared at that page for a long time, because my signs weren't dramatic. No arm pain, no collapse, no movie moment, just pressure. Enough to write off. I wondered how many guys like me never made it past that. At some point, I picked up my phone and typed out a message. What would you do if your second chance started in a hospital bed? I didn't send it to anyone, just saved it in notes. Still, it felt like a start. You're not 25 anymore, Nate. The nurse said it with the kind of dry, practiced smile that tried to soften the blow, but her voice was firm. You don't bounce back, you adapt. She tightened the strap on my blood pressure cuff with one hand and scribbled on her chart with the other. I didn't argue, mostly because I was too tired. Not physically, not entirely, but somewhere deeper. Like I'd been holding something up inside me for years and finally set it down. By the third day in the hospital, I'd learned the rhythm. Vitals at 6, blood draw at 7, nurse shift change at 8. The same jokes. The same gentle prodding about food and walking and fluids. I did my laps around the hallway like a senior citizen in training. Pajama pants, IV pole, soft shuffle of slippers on tile. I even started nodding at the others making the same loop. A gray-haired woman with oxygen tubes, a lanky teenager recovering from something I didn't ask about, a middle-aged guy like me with a belly and a blank stare. There was a quiet fraternity in those walks. No one said much, but everyone nodded. We were the ones who made it through the night. Midday, I sat by the window with a tray of bland soup and a white bread sandwich when my brother called back. "Hey," he said, voice low like he wasn't sure I'd pick up. "Hey," I answered, just as unsure. "You okay?" "I'm here," I said. "Had a mild heart attack. 2 days ago." Long pause. "Damn," he muttered. "Yeah." Another beat of silence. "Mom would have said you were too stubborn to die." I let out a soft laugh. "Probably." She would have also blamed the vending machine lunches and those frozen burritos you used to eat. She wasn't wrong. He didn't argue. After a moment I asked, "You still in Toledo?" "Yeah, married now, 2 stepkids." "No kidding. Got married last fall. Meant to invite you." "Meant to?" Life got weird. We both sat in that awkward space between guilt and habit. Years had passed. We'd both built walls, but now one of mine had cracked, and I wasn't sure what was still holding his up. "Want me to come out there?" he asked, tentative. I looked at my tray. Lukewarm soup, half a sandwich. "Not yet," I said, "but thanks." That evening my ex showed up. I didn't expect her. She knocked gently before entering, a reusable grocery bag slung over her shoulder. Inside were toiletries, a fresh t-shirt, and a paperback I'd started reading months ago and left at her place. "You didn't have to come," I said as she set the bag down. "I wanted to." We sat in silence for a moment. "You look okay," she said finally. "Thanks, I guess." She didn't smile. Not quite. "I told the kids," she added. "Kept it simple. Said you weren't feeling great, but you were getting better. Appreciate that. Caleb wants to draw you something. Emma said you better not die before her dance recital." That made me laugh, harder than I expected. The monitor beeped a little faster, and the nurse peeked in just to check. I waved her off with a thumbs up. "You scared me," my ex said after a moment. Her voice was quieter now, more fragile. I looked over. "Yeah, me too." "Why didn't you call sooner?" "Didn't want to worry anyone. Didn't think it was that serious." "Until it was." I nodded. "Until it was." She stared out the window. The sky was bruising into dusk. Streetlights blinked on, one by one, like cautious thoughts. "You think it's a wake-up call?" she asked. "I know it is." "Then wake up." She stood, picked up the empty coffee cup she brought in with her, and left me with a kiss on the forehead. Soft, brief, familiar. Not romantic, but not cold either, just human. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart monitor was steady, my breathing normal, but my brain wouldn't settle. I kept seeing flashes of my kids, not grown, not worried, just normal. Caleb riding his bike, Emma with that scuffed-up purple backpack she refused to replace. I thought about all the times I skipped dinner with them to stay late at work. All the weekends I told myself I'd make it up next time. Time is funny like that. You think it stretches forever, until it doesn't. Next morning, Dr. Hargrave came in with my discharge paperwork. "You're stable," he said, "but stability isn't the same as health. You still need to follow up." "I will." "You smoke?" "No." "Drink?" "Sometimes, not much." "Red meat?" I hesitated. He raised an eyebrow. "I've had a committed relationship with cheeseburgers," I admitted. "Break up with them," he said flatly. I chuckled. "You always this charming?" "Only with the ones who survive." They rolled me out in a wheelchair, hospital policy, and the sun felt sharper than I remembered. Not warm, not soft, just real. Outside, I waited for my Uber, sitting beside an older man in a wheelchair who looked like he hadn't spoken to anyone all day. "You getting out too?" I asked. He nodded. "Second time this year." I winced. "Hope it's your last." He gave a small smile. "That's up to me now." Then he wheeled off to meet his daughter at the curb. I got home around 10. The apartment smelled like closed windows and yesterday's socks. I opened everything, let air back in. Then I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my old routines. The mail pile, the half-dead plant, the empty coffee cup from 3 days ago. Everything looked the same. But I wasn't. I called my kids that night. Emma picked up first. "Daddy, you sound weird." "I do? You sound like you're thinking too much." I smiled. "That's because I'm thinking about you." She giggled, then passed the phone to Caleb. "Mom said you were in the hospital." "Yeah, bud. I had a little issue with my heart." "You gonna die?" "No, I'm gonna get better." "Promise?" "I promise." He was quiet a second, then added, "You still taking me to the arcade Friday?" "Wouldn't miss it." After the call, I walked to the mirror, took off my shirt, looked at the chest lead still outlined in red marks on my skin. Then I picked up the paper the nurse had given me before I left. Cardiac recovery checklist. Item 1. Walk daily. I laced up my sneakers, stepped outside, started walking. The sidewalk was warm under my sneakers. Not hot, just radiating the heat of a late morning sun that had taken its time rising. I kept my hands in the front pocket of my hoodie as I walked past the corner store, trying not to let the wind catch my chest. The cotton fabric brushed against the tender marks where the electrode stickers had been. Every step reminded me that I was not quite put back together yet, but I was outside, walking, alive. And that counted. The thing they don't tell you about recovering from a heart attack is that it's not just physical. It's quiet, internal. Half the battle is sitting in a room alone, hearing the walls creak, and wondering if every flutter in your chest is the next one coming for you. The other half is convincing yourself to move anyway. The first week home was like walking through molasses. I was cleared for light activity. 30 minutes a day, no lifting, no caffeine. My apartment became a loop. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, couch. Rinse. Repeat. I found myself counting steps even without the pedometer. 200 before breakfast. Another 200 before lunch. I made it a game, but it never stopped feeling like rehab for something I'd done to myself. One evening, I stood in front of the fridge, staring at a can of soda. It had been in there since before the hospital. One of the little things I never thought twice about. I picked it up, turned it in my hand. The aluminum was cool, familiar. A tiny hiss if I popped the tab. I could already hear it in my head. Then I put it back. Not because I didn't want it, because I did, but because that can had never been worth dying over, and now I knew it. Caleb and Emma came over Friday. They burst through the door like they always did. Full of energy, backpacks slung halfway off their shoulders, voices already competing for airtime. "Is it true you had a heart attack?" Caleb blurted, dropping his bag by the door. Emma elbowed him. "Mom said not to say it like that." I smiled, crouched carefully so I could hug them both. "It's true, but I'm okay. Just have to be more careful now." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "Do you have to eat gross food now?" "Mostly," I said. "No burgers, no pizza, lots of leafy things." He made a gagging noise. Emma held my hand. "I'll make you soup." I squeezed her little fingers. "Deal." At the arcade, I didn't chase them around like I usually would. I sat on a bench, watching, sipping water, and clapping every time they hit a high score. Caleb tried to drag me into a basketball hoop game. I declined. "I'm in chill mode today," I told him. "You used to dunk on me." "Gotta save my powers," he squinted. "Does this mean you're old?" "Yup." He grinned. "Cool." Later that night, when I dropped them off, my ex pulled me aside. "You look better," she said. "I feel clearer." "You sure you're okay doing this alone?" I thought about that. "No," I admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." That weekend, I cleaned out my pantry. Boxed mac and cheese, gone. Microwave burritos, gone. 3 unopened bags of kettle chips, donated to my downstairs neighbor. It felt ceremonial, like clearing out bad habits by the boxful. Then I walked into my bedroom and stared at my nightstand drawer. Inside was a stack of unopened bills, a prescription I never filled, and an old envelope with my father's handwriting on it. I had kept it since his funeral, but never opened it. That night, I did. It was a birthday card, unsigned. Just the card, blank inside, and a sticky note attached that read, "Meant to fill this out, but forgot. You get it. Happy 40th. He never mailed it. Probably planned to give it to me in person. He died 2 months before that birthday. I stared at the card for a long time. It said nothing and everything. Monday came. I didn't go to work. I'd been granted 2 weeks of medical leave, and for once I intended to use every hour. But that didn't stop the emails. Kevin sent me an update about a client issue. Lana CC'd me on a budget thread. I replied once saying, "Thanks, but I'm unplugged for real this time. Back soon." Then I silenced my notifications and closed the laptop. My brother called again Tuesday night. "Still walking?" he asked. "Yeah, every day." "Still pretending kale tastes good?" "Depends what you bury it under." He chuckled. "I'm proud of you, man." That caught me off guard. "Thanks," I said. "It's weird hearing that." "Well, you earned it. It took a heart attack, but you're finally human." "Always was." "Maybe, but now you act like it." We made small plans. Maybe a visit. Maybe a long weekend. It wasn't much, but it was more than we'd had in years. That night, I sat down with a legal pad and started a list. Stuff I said I'd do when I had more time. Go to Emma's dance recital. Actually watch, not record through my phone. Take Caleb camping. Visit Dad's old house in Ohio. Call Tim from college, just to talk. Get a checkup every 6 months. Finish that woodworking bench in the garage. Learn how to cook something healthy that doesn't taste like cardboard. Apologize to Jen, my ex, for the things I never said. Try therapy. Once. Just to see. Stay alive long enough to add more to this list. I taped it to the fridge. A week later, I had my first follow-up with the cardiologist. New office. More cheerful walls. A waiting room that smelled like cinnamon gum and Lysol. The nurse took my vitals and smiled. "You're looking good, Nate." "Feeling decent." She handed me a clipboard with a survey. "How are you managing your recovery emotionally?" I stared at it for a beat, then wrote, "Still figuring that part out." Dr. Hargrave came in 5 minutes later, still crisp and no nonsense. He reviewed my charts, asked about the walking, the food, the stress. I answered honestly. "Your numbers are trending well," he said. "Stay consistent, keep walking, watch your sodium, and find a reason to laugh once in a while." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that on the checklist?" "Unofficially." Then he paused before standing. "You did good catching this early. You caught it. You listened just enough to show up. A lot of men don't. Their first sign is the last." That stayed with me. I left the clinic with no prescription refill, just a referral for cardiac rehab and a sense of momentum. That night, I walked farther than usual. Past the school, the empty soccer field, a dog park buzzing with soft barks and laughter. I stopped at a bench under a street lamp and sat there a while. Not tired, just still. For the first time in a long while, my chest didn't hurt. Not even a little. No tightness. No hidden throb. No whispers of doom beneath the skin. Just breath. And silence. The wristband was still sitting on my dresser. The hospital one, crinkled and cut open at the seam. It wasn't heavy, just honest. A reminder I almost wore to the grave. I hadn't thrown it out. Not yet. Some part of me felt like it deserved to be kept, not as trauma, but as proof. Proof that I waited too long. Proof that I got another shot anyway. 2 months had passed since that night. Life didn't magically change. There were no sweeping montages or profound mornings of rebirth. The mailbox still filled with junk. Work still sent dumb emails. People still forgot my birthday. But I changed. I started cooking. Actually cooking. The kind with whole ingredients and smoke alarms going off until I figured out how to use the fan above the stove. I bought a cheap treadmill and set it in the corner of my living room where the old TV used to be. Walked every day. Not fast, not loud, just forward. I signed up for therapy. Virtual for now. Just an intro session every other Wednesday with a woman named Marie, who wore colorful scarves and didn't flinch when I said, I think I was trying to die by accident. I didn't mean to say that during the first call, but I did, and she just nodded, calmly, like it was a language she already knew. Caleb and Emma noticed things. Why do you eat spinach now? Because it helps me stay alive. Why are you walking in circles in the apartment? Because I like being your dad, and I want to keep doing it. Why don't you yell at the TV anymore during sports? Because I want to lower my blood pressure, and the Cowboys aren't worth dying for. They laughed at that one. But they understood more than I gave them credit for. At work, I started setting boundaries. No more late nights just to finish slides someone else should have done. No more staying quiet in meetings when decisions affected my workload. No more skipping lunch. No more, I'll just push through. Kevin asked if I was feeling fully back. I told him, I'm not going back. I'm going forward differently. He didn't get it. Didn't matter. My brother visited in early spring. He brought his wife, Julia, and her 2 kids. They stayed at a hotel, but came by for dinner. We grilled chicken, the good kind, lemon marinated, low salt. I made salad and used actual olive oil. Everyone ate. Everyone laughed. After dinner, he and I sat on the stoop while the kids ran around with sidewalk chalk. You ever think we'd be sitting here again? He asked. No, I said, but I'm glad we are. He handed me a folded scrap of paper, a copy of a photo we'd taken with Dad when we were kids, us standing in front of the old Buick holding fishing rods. I think about him more now, I said. Me too. We sat in silence. That kind of silence only shared by people who've lost the same thing, but in different ways. The real change came one ordinary Thursday. It was late afternoon. I was cleaning up after dinner when I felt it. Not pressure, not pain. Stillness. The absence of fear. For weeks, even after the hospital, I'd waited for another wave, another spasm, another betrayal from my own body. But that night it wasn't there. My heart beat steady, my breath was easy, my chest was open. So I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter, not to anyone, just to before me. Here's what I wrote. You thought it was nothing. That's the lie that almost killed you. You thought you didn't have time to deal with it. That time almost ran out. You told yourself you were being strong. But strength isn't silence. It's showing up to the clinic at 2 a.m. because you know something is wrong. It's calling your kids afterward. It's throwing out the soda. It's saying no to Kevin. It's waking up every morning and choosing to keep going. You got lucky. Not because you survived, but because you decided to finally listen. Never forget that sound. The flat clink of the gurney wheels. The steady beeping of the monitor. The voice that said, you had a heart attack. That was the sound of your second chance beginning. Don't waste it. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. In May, I sat in the school auditorium and watched Emma's recital. She danced like the floor couldn't hold her, light and focused and serious, in that way only 9-year-olds can be. When the music ended, I clapped so hard my hands hurt, caught her eye. She smiled. Afterward, Caleb asked if we could get smoothies instead of ice cream. I said yes. Small steps, big wins. Later that night, as I tucked them in at their mom's house, Emma whispered, "I'm glad you're okay." "Me too, kiddo. Promise you'll stay that way?" "I promise." And this time I meant it. I walked back to my car alone. Quiet night. Street lamps buzzing. My reflection passed across dark windows as I walked. A man who looked a little older, a little thinner, but also a little clearer. I unlocked the door, sat in the driver's seat, and felt my heart beat. Steady, deliberate, mine. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.